I don't think it's specifically when they're 18. I think it's well for the female. I think it's when they have their first period.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's like 9, 10, 11,
No,
12,
it's
13.
normally like around 12, 13, 14. I think.
Girls get periods at 9, 10.
I don't know then.
See, because you do that, that's why I never see it.
Well, then you should have looked in it.
No, but like, it's
Just
so-
which one?
Welcome back to another
Unorthodox reaction. Cut open. You know, we just wait for this.
sponsored by Co-op.
They're not sponsoring us. Blur this out.
I mean, Co-op, if you want to sponsor us, then yeah. But Co-op is awful, guys. I wouldn't go there personally.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but it's alright.
Sorry, we should be talking about the video we're reacting.
We're turning to a review channel for no reason.
For all the new watchers, they're like, what is this nonsense? Sorry guys, this is unorthodox reactions.
Cut open.
Unorthodox intro.
Cut open.
We do random stuff.
Like reactions.
Exactly, and intros
Yeah.
and stuff. So this video is
It is an oversimplified video. I think this is our first time reacting to Oversimplified. And it is Henry VIII. The story of Henry VIII. Now, I'm not sure yet, but this video might have a part 1 and part 2. No.
oh, sorry. Sorry. I thought we were saying stuff. Sorry, my bad. It's not.
It might have a part 1 and a part 2. It might just be all in one video we have to see, but yeah. Without further ado.
Yeah, a daughter.
Ado.
Oh, gee, we should do some Black History stuff.
Let's
Sorry.
get it.
This video was made possible by Honey. Keep watching to find out how you can save money when you shop online. Also, the
Mr.
reviews
Beast
are in.
advertising.
That
That's
was
some
ready
nice
to
merch.
begin
Get your brand new
already.
character pin, limited time face mask, and more. Links
Mr.
down
Beast
below.
always gets sponsored by Honey.
Sigmund, I don't have much longer. Tell me, was I a good king? You were okay. Will I be remembered as the great warrior king who invaded France, revolutionized English healthcare, and developed
Why
great
subtitles
parklands?
twice?
Probably not. Because of the wife killings? Because of the wife killings. Sigmund, how did I get here? I still remember the good old days when I was a boy with a heart full of fire. And Mummy would teach me. Okay, Henry, this is a horse. Can you say horse? Divorce. What? No. Okay, let's try this.
Oh yeah, he used the
Can
one
you
who
say
allowed
loaf
So
of
7
bread?
wives, I think.
Loaf with her head. No, Henry, that's wrong. You know what? Last one. Okay. Can you say soap? Soap. Yes, that's it. I'm the supreme head of the church. Screw the Pope. You know what? You're my son and I love you, but you're freaking weird, man.
Oversimplified. Henry VIII.
The year is
I read it
1491.
as
England has just come out of 3 decades of civil war in which a bunch of Henrys, Edwards, and one Richard had a little ding-dong over which royal house
A
should rule
bunch
the
of
realm.
Henrys,
Finally,
Edwards.
a Henry won, Henry VII, and he had a son. What should we name him? My royal lineage is full of Henrys. A fine name, a vigorous name, a tenacious name, a muscular name. How about Arthur? And so Arthur, Prince of Wales and next in line to the throne, was born. 5 years later, Prince Henry was born, but nobody cares about him. He's not the heir, just a spare. The king wanted to make an alliance with Spain, so one day he said to his son Arthur, "Hey, baby, you see that lady baby? That's gonna be your wife. But father, I'm not even 3 years old yet. Listen, there's something you have to understand. You're my son. But more than that, you're a political bargaining tool. But you love me, right? I love you as a political bargaining tool. Yay. Hey, Pop, who the heck are you? I've written you a poem. Listen here, tiny man. Can't you see that I'm busy? But I'm your son. I have another son? As Arthur was in another palace, being prepped to become king, Henry lived with his mother and 2 sisters at Eltham, where he was being trained for a church career. And not just that, Henry learnt languages. He played sports. He learnt the recorder. What a nerd. Am I right? Wrong. Henry was the coolest kid around. So I told my Latin teacher he could kissius my buddius. Anyway, here's Wonderwall. Great scholars and theologians from across Europe came to meet and teach the young Prince Henry, who by all accounts was a very enlightened, bright and charming young boy. Everybody loved
what
Henry,
happened to
and out
him?
of everything Henry was taught, more than anything, he
Like
came
from the
to
way he
adore
grew up, he
and
shouldn't have
respect
ended up
theology
Henry.
and Catholicism. One of Henry's tutors was English
He sounds like he grew up to be a lecturer.
like a professor,
Exactly,
like a
like-
uni teacher or something.
Exactly.
poet laureate John Skelton, who wrote a textbook for Henry that we still have today. In it, he wrote a number of important lessons for the young prince, such as do not be mean, loathe gluttony, and do not violate widows. Important lessons for any 9-year-old boy.
All
Around this time,
lessons
Henry's
he
older
ignored.
brother Arthur, now 15 years old, was married to Catherine of Aragon, sealing
Oh,
the union
she
between
died.
England and Spain. And then he died. Oh, my
She
alliance
was
with
that
Spain.
bad.
My poor,
How'd he die?
poor alliance with Spain.
He just
And
died.
your son, sire? Oh, yes, of course, my son. But mostly my alliance with Spain. Hey, Pop, who the heck are you? Oh,
yeah,
And just
I
like
have
that,
another
an
son.
unprepared Prince Henry was now the new heir to the throne. And how about that alliance with Spain? Well, the solution was simple. Hey, boy, see that full-grown woman over there?
Oh, God.
That's gonna be your wife. What, my brother's widow? Yes.
That's messed
You're a
up.
freaking weirdo, man. Now, in the Bible, there's a verse that says marrying your brother's widow, that's a big no-no. So the king needed to convince the Pope and get his special permission.
Counting his
Hey,
money.
can I please have my son marry his brother's widow? Sure, why not? And so it was. Henry's life was turned on its head as he was moved to the royal court next.
How can we trust religion?
What do you mean?
Back then, they were just like, yeah, sure, why not? Yeah. Okay.
Well, I don't know. That's why I never understood why they placed so much power in the Pope back then. Because
Yeah.
they make it sound like the Pope speaks for God.
Popes like childlike.
That's the ongoing criticism. Yeah.
Let's keep that one. Yeah.
in line to the throne. But tragedy struck when just a few months later, his mother, with whom he was very close, suddenly died in childbirth. The loss of his mother almost certainly had a big effect on
That's
the
why
young
he
boy.
changed.
In his older years, King Henry VII went on a bit of a paranoid trip. As was normal for a king at the time, Henry VII had to quell a number of rebellions, and as he aged, he became ever more suspicious of the nobility around him. To keep them in check, he began levying huge, ruinous fines, left, right, and center. Dukes, bishops, barons, even his own mother. No one was
She
safe from his
died.
tyranny, and the nobility of England began to suffer. So when Henry VII finally got sick and died just after Christmas 1508, there was a lot of celebration.
Oh,
Not
Henry
only because the
VII
tyrannical
did
Henry
that.
VII was gone, but because his replacement was the ever-popular, charming, and handsome 18-year-old King Henry VIII. Henry married Catherine of Aragon in June 1509. You may be wondering, if it's so weird to marry your brother's widow, and since he's now king, couldn't Henry just decide not to? Well, yes, he could, but by now, Henry wanted to. The thing about Henry that was unlike many kings of the time was he married for love, and he had grown quite fond of Catherine, very fond. Historians say their marriage was unusually good, and so he was coronated
Usually
king. And what a king. Compared to his tyrannical father, he was an absolute joy. Having the blood of two royal houses, he was widely supported. He was really, really ridiculously good looking, and those famous calves could achieve world peace. Hey Henry, now that you're king, you know what that means. Costume party! Henry pranced around the palace playing dress up with his friends. He wrote plays. He sang songs. He danced. A true Renaissance man, very different from the gluttonous wife killer we think of today. In his early reign, people from near and far would come to ask favors of the generous king. Hey man, could I gain ownership of some land near Upton Snodsbury? Sure thing, pal. Hey, could I be an earl or a baron or a viscount or something? Anything you want, man. Could I get just like a
sounds
really
like
cool
a
pig that has like
terrible idea.
freaking metal wings and 8 legs and shoots flipping lasers and it can grow more pigs out
Not
of it
gonna
for
lie.
extra pigs? Say no more.
I thought he was gonna answer something weird. I thought he was gonna be like, can I get an 8-year-old child? Or not
In
saying
that
that's
kind
the
of
problem.
time.
Sorry guys.
Hey, guys, I was just checking up on the financial report and what the hell? We can't afford this. Henry's
Pigsty.
council that he inherited from his father weren't happy with all the money he was just throwing around, and they worked hard
Yeah, I
to
was
curb the
gonna
king's
say, it
spending.
sounds like
Since they controlled the
it
royal
cost them a
seals needed to
lot
get
of
stuff
money.
done, at first they were largely able to control the young king. And for Henry, the most infuriating things of all was they wouldn't let him joust with his friends because it was too dangerous, nor would they let him do the thing he wanted most, to go on a great, glorious, and expensive conquest against England's historic enemy, France. Please, guys, I'll keep it cheap. How? I'm glad you asked. I've got a promo code for the financial burden of war. Yes, Honey is the free browser extension that automatically finds promo codes when. Now, where were we? Oh yeah, sexy calves, excessive spending, and war with France. Henry wanted glory. He wanted to go down in history. If he didn't go to war in France, was he even the king of England? Man, I want to go to war so bad, but the council won't let me. Hey, maybe I can help with that. Whoa, it's Cardinal Wolsey, one of my best friends. Despite being an old-ass man, Cardinal Wolsey knew that if he helped King Henry, there'd likely be something in it for him. So what was his great, intricate plan to curb the council's power? You're the king, dum-dum. You can do whatever you want. What? Wolsey began writing bills that simply didn't require the seals, and thus Henry was back on top. For his efforts, Wolsey began to climb the ranks, and he became something of a yes man for King Henry, encouraging Henry to frolic and play while Wolsey took care of business.
This sounds like a terrible
Kid,
idea.
you want to go on an adventure?
You wanna
Do
see it
I
then?
ever? The Pope was at war with France and he needed some help. He offered the young, impressionable King Henry 100 Parmesan cheeses, some wine, and a golden rose if he came to the Pope's aid, and Henry was all in. At this point in his life, he still respected the church and loved the Pope. And here was the chance for war he had been waiting for. He still didn't have an heir, a fairly big problem for a monarch at the time. But right now, the only kind of smashing he was interested in was smashing French guys in the face. And so off he went. The English already held the French city of Calais. From there, Henry made a glorious victory at the Battle of the Spurs. He took the French cities of Terouanne and Tournai. Word of his victory spread. This was it. Here was the glory he had been waiting for. Back home, his beautiful wife also led armies to victory in Scotland. And better yet, she was pregnant. Soon, Henry would have an heir. All of Henry's
That's nice,
wildest
kid.
dreams were coming
That
true.
is-
Oh, he ran out of
it's just
money.
not a boy.
As the French prepared to
I
invade
don't think
Italy,
he had a boy
all
for a
Henry could
while.
do was go home. Well, at least now I have an heir to cheer me up. Bring me my son. Henry, this is Mary. Mary? That's a funny name for a boy. Henry, it's a girl. This was Catherine's fifth pregnancy that had not resulted in a male heir. Happy Henry wasn't so happy with pregnancy.
Girl still born, boy. Oh.
Yeah, dang. Is it because I think it might have been because she was too old? Because remember, she's probably like, yeah, but it's because she was too old that there were birth complications. Because remember, at this point, Henry was like 18, or like probably 18, and
Now
she
he's like
was
20-something.
yeah, and she was already considerably older than him
Yeah.
before
That had
he
not
even,
resulted in a
Yeah,
male
became
heir.
king.
Happy Henry wasn't so happy anymore. You still haven't given
She's
me a
probably
male
like
heir.
pushing
Well, how do you know
40.
it's my problem? Maybe it's your problem, Henry. It couldn't be my problem because I've been boinking half your maid staff, and one of them gave me a boy. Sure. Yeah, you know what? Maybe it's my problem. I'll look into that.
What?
Cardinal.
He was cheating on her.
Every king cheats on their wife. What king didn't in that time?
Yeah, I'm just gonna become like. Where's my queen? I'm gonna make sure the maid is with
Wolsey, now Henry's Lord Chancellor, knew his job depended on keeping Henry happy. And so he said, well, if you can't be the great warrior, then how about the great peacemaker? Not as cool, but okay. And so the Field of the Cloth of Gold, a glamorous peace summit between England and France, was held. The King of France, Francis I, was essentially the
Dragon.
French version of King Henry. And the whole thing was basically one giant cod piece measuring contest. The two sides did agree to a peace treaty.
Look at them
However, it
cods.
didn't last long. You see, there was a third major player in European politics at the
Scotland.
time, an exquisite specimen of royal inbreeding, an
God.
heir to a huge inheritance, and a chin that could hit a home run. Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. He was Henry's wife's nephew. Henry had helped him out in the past to put down a Spanish rebellion, and now the two wanted to make an alliance, and so a marriage was arranged. Mary, I'd like to introduce you to your 22-year-old fully grown adult cousin, and now your
What?
future husband. Ew,
What?
he looks inbred. Mary!
You're all
We're
inbred.
all inbred. With
I
their new
knew you were gonna
alliance,
say
Charles
that.
and Henry agreed to team up and relaunch a camp. We're all future husband. Ew, he looks inbred. Mary. We're all inbred. With their new alliance, Charles and
That's
Henry agreed
funny.
to team up and relaunch a campaign against France. In 1522, the English landed and stormed as far
That's
south
so
as
weird,
Antwerp, but Charles
What?
didn't commit
The
significant.
inbred thing.
No, the pedo aspect of it. She was like 3. He was 22.
Bro, like, pedo in that time was
Oh,
not
that's
even a thing.
Not
Like, it
even.
was crazy.
Oh, that's
back
disgusting, bro.
Then. Bro, it was crazy back then. That's not even the worst
How
of
can
it.
you see
Because
a
friggin'
kid
they're
and
marrying
think-
their cousin.
Yeah, but how
And
can
to
you
top
see
it
a
off,
kid
she's
and
8.
exactly
She's like 8 and
you
you're
don't
like
see an
22.
8-year-old and you're like, oh yeah, after we're married, we have to
Yeah, but
do
they
the-
don't marry them when they're 8.
Yeah, I
they
know.
marry them
when
once.
they're 18 or
No,
whatever.
not even. I don't think it's specifically when they're 18. I think it's well for the female. I think it's when they have their
stop.
first period.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's like 9, 10, 11,
No,
12,
it's
13.
normally like around 12, 13, 14. I
Girls,
think.
girls get periods at 9, 10.
I don't know then, but like,
That's
but for the guys, it's
crazy.
normally like when they're like come of age, so like 18 or something like that.
Yeah, but
So if it's like
that's still
two people
crazy.
of like, if it's the two people of around the same age, then they're gonna be like when they're like 18, 19.
Yeah, but that's disgusting.
But yeah,
Just see an 8-year-old.
but there
and
would
think
be
to
like
yourself, oh yeah, give
what's
her
the word
4
I'm looking
years.
for? Engaged probably about like when they're like 8.
Yeah,
9.
but like, oh yeah, give her 4 years.
But some were even engaged like at birth or before they were even born.
That's
Like they were like they literally made a deal like
How do you?
this is my wife is pregnant. If it's a girl, yeah, you're gonna be engaged to it or you're gonna get to marry it. It's crazy.
Significant forces. Whoops. Sorry, man. Not sure what happened. I'll join in next year. The next year, England swept northern France, almost taking Paris. But once again, where was Charles? Oh man, I'm so sorry. I promise, next year, I'll be there. The next year came, and a fed-up Henry decided he was gonna sit this one out. And just as Charles ravaged the French
Of
at the Battle
course,
of
now
Pavia
you're
and
gonna-
captured the French king. Holy crap, dude. Yeah, I totally kicked France's butt. That's great. So, can I have the French throne like we
No.
agreed? No. What? And also, I don't want to marry your ugly daughter anymore. Ugly? Have you seen your chin? Mummy says it's a strong chin for a strong boy. As Henry's alliance with Charles fell apart, Henry knew his days as a warrior were over. This was a problem for Henry, but it was a bigger problem for his
he
wife.
doesn't have a
Catherine of
son.
Aragon had 2 jobs. The first was to give Henry a male heir, but the second was to maintain an alliance with her relatives in Spain, including her nephew. She had failed, and Henry's sexy eyes began to wander. Home from all his wars, Henry ate up his daily 5,000 calories of meat as an infatuation began to grow for one of his wife's ladies in waiting. Anne
that's how you
Boleyn.
got fat.
Beautiful,
she's
intelligent, cultured. She was exactly Henry's
Anne
type.
Marie.
Now, Henry had had dozens of mistresses, including Anne's sister, but Anne didn't want to just be Henry's
She
side
doesn't
chick.
care about
She
that.
wanted to be his queen. Henry sent dozens of letters, thirsty love poems. In one, he proclaimed that he would like to kiss her pretty duckies. Henry's loins were on
Don't know
fire,
what that
but Anne
means
kept
at
him
all.
at just the right distance to drive him crazy and push him to find a way to get rid of his current wife. Wolsey, I want a divorce. And as the
So
representative,
she was like, you can't hit this until
Until I'm queen or until I'm married to you.
she's devilish.
But she no, like I can't blame her because in those days, especially if she just let him hit without her being queen,
She
then
would have just been a side piece.
yeah, she's not even that, especially because she doesn't really have any sort of role of power. Then
Yeah.
and not only then because she would have lost the virginity, so
Yeah.
any chance of her having any other political
Yeah,
leverage
yeah.
with any other king
Yeah, but
would have
what
been.
about the other girls that were having sex with the king as well? They weren't virgins.
They were never gonna be anywhere anyway, because they were like probably like
Maids and
the
stuff.
maid and stuff. So
Okay.
probably the best thing that's gonna happen to them is to be able to sleep with the king, hope to be
Yeah.
pregnant, so you can compensate them
Yeah.
or something like that. But
representative of the Pope here in England, I expect
I'm
you to
saying-
sort it out quickly and quietly. I don't want this to turn into a Europe-wide scandal. You got it, Your Majesty.
Hey, Big Papa! My boy Henry says he wants to divorce his wife. Any chance?
To Henry's shock and horror, Wolsey deferred the case back to the Pope in Rome. To make matters worse, after all the wars in Europe, the Pope was currently under the thumb of Charles V. Now everybody knew what was going on, and Henry's divorce trial had become a pawn of greater European politics. For Wolsey, the decision was a disaster. His job was to keep Henry happy,
Yeah, you
and
dumb
Henry was
idiot.
very, very unhappy. Nevertheless, the divorce trial began. Henry's case rested upon the Bible verse in Leviticus that claimed marrying your
And if a man shall take his brother's wife, it is an unclean thing. He hath uncovered his brother's nakedness. They shall be childless. Oh, so is that why he's arguing that he's not got a son yet?
brother's
Okay,
widow would lead
bold
to
move.
childlessness, and Henry was certainly having a hard time getting a male heir. He argued that the Pope had got it wrong when he allowed Henry to marry his brother's widow, and that now divorce was the only solution. However, the Pope and Charles V acquired some interesting letters from an unknown source. He wants to
From
kiss
Catherine.
her pretty duckies? Man, this guy's loins are on fire. The Pope now knew the case for divorce may not actually be found in Henry's Bible, but in Henry's pants. After escaping Charles V, the Pope did send out one Cardinal Campeggio to oversee the trial. Campeggio was an old man racked with gout. It took him 6 painful months to travel from Rome to England, and when he finally got there,
Wait, he had to
this
walk
kept
or
happening.
something?
Hey,
No, they don't have cars, and so they probably had to travel with like horse and carriage.
What about over the water boat?
I don't think they had like big boats back then.
So how do you get over water?
Boat, but I don't think you had like any fast boat or anything. It was probably just a boat that sails by wind in it. So they would have had to rely on how hard the wind was blowing.
Yeah, but bro, like he should have just died at sea because he's got to pack food for that, doesn't he?
But no, they're gonna have food like that's enough for them to be able to make it. Like, because obviously back then they would know how long typically it would take them to travel from
so
this
he
shore to
didn't have
that
food.
shore. What do you mean he didn't have food?
What did he have food from like the when he was like, okay, I gotta take boat now?
Of course he would have had food. The boat probably had food for them. Like they always keep food in storage, and it's kind of like how it is now with like the whole. Think of it as like a cruise, but just medieval time cruise.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I need you to take a look at this evidence. I can't. My gout is acting up. Hey, are you ready to take my testimony? I can't. My gout is acting up. Hey, can you please make a decision? I can't.
Gout.
Your gout is acting up. My gout is acting up. Anne Boleyn, with her Protestant views in support of the Reformation, suspected the Pope was just delaying. For 2 whole years, the trial dragged on and on, and in the end, the Pope simply said, "No, no divorce for you." Henry, the king that had previously
We shall be stopping that there.
Oh, I was kind of like he didn't get to hit for 2 years.
Oh yeah, then
He was not holding up.
if you
for that
want to
long.
find out if he gets to hit, then
he was not holding up for that long.
What do you mean she was not holding up with that?
Not holding up.
Do you know how
Plus
powerful it is to actually be the queen? Like,
Yeah, but
if I was in her position, I would hold out for that long.
Yeah, but you're holding up for banter now. So if you
But
had a
still
reason, you
though.
would be like, yeah, I'm not giving it.
Exactly. So she had a reason. So
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
he
Me,
held a stance.
the queen, maybe.
But yeah, we hope you guys have enjoyed. As usual, like, comment, subscribe, notification bell. And we'll see
Sorry
you
about
in
that.
the next
No, that's
one.
been another Unorthodox reaction. It's
I
another
don't do that.
Unorthodox
So if you want to
outro.
do that,
Thank you guys for checking in with us. I've been out of this frame a lot. So
cold.
open or cold, just cold.
It's cold.
We appreciate your company. If you're still here with us, we appreciate you. If you're not, we still appreciate you. Till next time.
In a bit.